Hi everybody, welcome back to the live session of WJC GCSE Business. I'm Mrs Alison Lacey and I'll be taking you through a recap on the sessions that I pre-recorded over the last few weeks. What I'll do in these sessions is, rather than sort of recap on all content, what I wanted to do is explore some exam questions around those particular topics, just to kind of give some context of how it'll be used in the exam. So we'll start off with business activity to start with. So this is topic 1. This is useful for year 10 students because that's likely the topic that you'll be actually starting with. And summary of what we went through in those sessions that I pre-recorded was, what a business is. We looked at the business environment. We looked at business sectors, so primary, secondary, tertiary, private and public sectors. We looked at entrepreneurs and why people become entrepreneurs, characteristics of those. We looked at risks and rewards, business planning, what's in a business plan, how maybe a business plan fails. Looked at aims and objectives, looking at SMART targets as well. So your aims is sort of your overall what you want the business to achieve over a number of years, and your objectives are your specifics. And within your objectives, you should have SMART targets, which is specific, measurable, agreed, realistic, and time specific. We also looked at how a business can grow. We looked at different stakeholders within a business and how they aren't necessarily all the time within the business. It can be also local community, government, etc. that are stakeholders. You've got business ownership, so looking at the different ownerships of business, so sole trader, business partners, private limited companies, public limited companies, etc. And we looked at types of integration as well, so your horizontal vertical, forward vertical and backward vertical, along with conglomerate integration as well. So that's kind of what we covered in a nutshell. So what I wanted to look at is looking at some exam questions. We have in previous sessions, sort of over the last few years, looked through exam questions with you, but I wanted to maybe look at ones that were from the most recent exam papers. So this is the 2023. I have concentrated on the Unit 1. The Unit 2, however, will have very similar questions. The only thing you have to remember with the Unit 2 is it's very case study. That you need to make sure that everything that you answer is to do with that case study, that you don't generalise it in any way, and making sure you're picking bits out of the case study with your Unit 2. So this is a question about entrepreneurs. So it's Jane Miller, is a fitness instructor in a gym called Fit and Healthy. Jane has worked at Fit and Healthy Gym since it opened in 2012, but she hopes to start up her own gym in the local area in the near future. Jane is aware of the risks and rewards of starting up a business. Suggest and explain one risk and one reward to entrepreneurs of starting a business. That's worth 4 marks. Now, when it's worth 4 marks, you need to be expanding on your points. So you're getting 1 mark for AO1 and then 1 mark for AO3, which is kind of expanding on that point. You're getting 1 mark for suitable risk suggested, 1 mark for relevant explanation of the suggested risk. So you kind of need to go beyond just saying what the risk is. You need to kind of go beyond that. So it could be loss of capital, money, financial risk. The entrepreneur may lose money they invest in starting the business. The business may have a lower than expected sales and customers may use competitors, poor reputation, target market, cannot afford the product or service. Business might close. And you have to remember the mark scheme is a very basic model of the question. So you should really kind of be padding this answer out. And not kind of putting it in sort of note form. Unexpected increases costs, wages and raw materials. The business may not be able to cover the costs, causing cash flow problems, and unexpected events as well could delay stock or illness might stop the business trading. 1 reward to be explained. Again, same sort of tactic. You're getting 1 for the suitable reward, 1 for the explanation. Entrepreneurs can earn profit from the business. This could be more than income from a job. The satisfaction gained from owning and running a business. This could improve self-esteem, making a difference in the community, responding to the needs of others in the local area, doing something they enjoy, which means they get greater job satisfaction. So when you're making the point, if you can add the maybe the word therefore after it and then expand your answer, it's going to maybe make sure that you're going to hit those 2 marks for each of those. So the word therefore is quite a good one to just tag on to the end, so it makes you actually expand your answer. Okay, so this is again 2023 and this is looking at business ownership. So after much consideration, Jane has decided to quit her job and borrow 50,000 from the bank to set up a new gym from the retail park. Jane has been approached by co-workers and friends about setting up a business with them rather than by herself. Jane feels that the business has a good chance of succeeding and is unsure as to which type of ownership she should choose for her new business. Advise Jane as to which type of business ownership she should choose to set up the gym. Okay, so you're looking here at 8 marks. Now what you're going to have to look at doing is comparing the different types of ownerships and talking about the advantages and disadvantages of each. So this is kind of an example answer that you could look at doing in order to try and get those 8 marks. So what I've put here is sort of one type of business ownership that Jane could choose is becoming a sole trader. So first of all, introducing my paragraph with the fact I'm talking about a sole trader in this. I've looked at them, the advantage. One advantage of being a sole trader is that Jane gets to keep all the profits, potentially increasing income, as she is giving up her job to pursue her dream. So again, I'm putting in here AO2 marks. So your AO2 is your context. So I've put Jane's name in here. I've talked about the fact that she's given up her job to pursue a dream. I'm finding all that information from the scenario that's been given to you. So as much as you can get in there is going to be really, really useful. However, large startup costs for gyms equipment, it may be difficult for her to raise large amounts of money on her own. So I've sort of said an advantage, I've given some context to it, but then I'm analysing it by saying, however, there is a disadvantage to this sole trade, being a sole trader. Okay, so it kind of gives that balanced argument. I go on to then discussing a bit of business ownership of partnership. So another type of business ownership that Jane could choose would be to make a partnership with someone else that may want to open a gym. One advantage is that more capital can be brought into the business than Jane has available, so there is a greater scope to improve the business. The extra capital could be better, more equipment, improving customer satisfaction and attracting new people. Okay, so I've talked about the advantage. I've put context into it about the fact that, you know, it could be used to get more equipment. I've again named Jane and put context into it, and then I've gone into saying, however, the partners may disagree about running the business and about future development. They may have a vision of the business that she now must compromise. So again, you're kind of putting a little bit of context in there as well. I then go on to talk about private limited company. Again, I'm not sure whether I need to have this 3rd paragraph in to get the full 8 marks, but I mean, I've put it in anyway just to kind of make sure, because obviously it talks about different ownerships, and being a company is one of the types of business ownerships that she could choose. So Jane could also choose becoming a private limited company. She can set up herself and have full control over the business. So many of the same benefits of a sole trader. However, the disadvantage to becoming a company is it costs more than setting up a sole trader, as well as legal expenses to setting up as a private limited company. Okay, so I've talked about a disadvantage there. Now, in the question, if we go back to the question, it does say advise. Now, in any question that it says advise, you need to make sure that you're adding a conclusion to it. So this, in order to get full marks, you need to have conclusions. So I feel that the best type of ownership for Jane would be for her to set up as a private limited company. Becoming a company would mean she has protection of unlimited liability, which would be helpful within the gym industry, as people may sustain injuries when they're at the gym. This would protect her personally if anything would go wrong. So I've kind of side of ownership I think will be right for Jane, and then I give them my opinions about why as my conclusion. So if in any of the big answer questions really, because sometimes it's not clear in the question whether they require a conclusion or not. If you can put a conclusion into the big answer questions, that will maybe hopefully ensure you get full marks for those particular questions. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go past these ones for now because I have gone over the 10 minutes for that section. Now if I have time I will go back. So I'm just going to skip forward to influences on business. Now this PowerPoint will be uploaded, so you can go through it if you wish at another point and sort of look at my answers and my questions if I don't get time to do them. Okay, so we looked at topic 2, which was influences on business. And the things that we looked at within that section of that pre-recording is we looked at technological influences, we looked at business ethics, we looked at environmental issues, economic issues, globalisation and international trade, and legal influences also. So we're looking at a question from 2022 from the Unit 1. Joseph Collins owns a fish and chip restaurant and takeaway in Cardiff. He recorded the number of customers from April to December. One of Joseph's aim is to run an ethical business. Identify 2 ethical business practices a business could use, and then explain why Joseph may experience problems when operating as an ethical fish and chip shop, restaurant, takeaway. Okay, so if we look at first of all ethical business practices, so you could have put there, it's like identify, so you don't need to explain them when they say identify, so like charging reasonable prices, treatment of workers, fair pay for suppliers, operating quietly during the night time, donating profits to charity, donating unused food. It goes on, using fair trade, not testing on animals, etc. Okay, so they're like all different types of ethical policies that the fish and chip owner Joseph could actually carry out. Okay, so you're getting one for each of those. Now, explain why Joseph may experience problems in operating an ethical fish and chip restaurant. So you need to think about ethical, and you then also need to think about it in the fish and chip industry. So examples of limited analysis: it can be expensive to be ethical, it can be hard to find ethical suppliers. Developed analysis would be it's expensive to be ethical, suppliers often charge more for fair trade products as the costs are higher. That would kind of get you sort of 2 marks on that. Sourcing ethical suppliers for fish and chips may be difficult. It can be hard to check which food suppliers are ethical. And if Joseph claims to be an ethical business but gives out misleading information to customers, then this could lead to damaging effects on his reputation. Okay, so anything like that would kind of allow you to get the sort of 2 marks, and there's 4 marks on offer. So you're probably looking at doing 2 well explained answers. And again, that's kind of just like looking at those kind of things there as well. Okay, so in 2022, Unit 2, one of the questions was Designer Sofas UK designs and manufactures all of its products in the North Wales factory. An important part of the production process is computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacture, which is CAM. Now consider how businesses benefit from using CAD and CAM is your question here for this one. Okay, so how you would answer this is you're getting 2 marks for your AO1 and 2 marks for your AO3, which is kind of your explaining of it. So you're getting 1 mark for knowledge of CAD, 1 mark for knowledge of CAM, and then you're getting an extra mark for each if you're giving a good explanation of it. So CAD, for example, means using computer design products, producing drawings of finished products, 3D images, so businesses have more accurate ideas of how the finished product will look before manufacturing, speeds up design, simple to edit, alternative designs can be considered. No need to build models for finished goods, so on and so forth. Okay, and that you're kind of explaining that. CAM, you're looking at your computer-aided manufacture, means use of computers in production and can be linked with CAD. Measurements easily transferred to manufacturing process, less scope for error in production, more accurate, less wastage, so on and so forth. So if you're kind of expanding your answers there. Now 2022 also looking at the Design Sofa UK ensures that legally responsible for its staff. For example, it allows staff the required number of breaks in a working day. The business also has a legal responsibility towards its customers. Now, outline one legal responsibility Design Sofa UK has towards its customers. So what we're looking at there is looking at customer law and what responsibility they have to their consumers. So the consumer law is concerned with protecting customers from unfair selling practices. Now, products must be described accurately and cannot be misled the customers about the product. Okay, so you can't say it's bigger than obviously it is, for example. Items must be fit for purpose, not faulty, of suitable quality. So if sofa will be expected to last a number of years and not just maybe 6 months. Misleading advertising must be accurate pricing, accurate images, accurate description. You must not mislead in advertising. And the right to return items bought online, having 14 days to send the item back for a refund. Okay, so on and so forth with that one. Now, it wouldn't accept any health and safety as it's an online business with regards to that. Okay, so 2019 Unit 1. All right, we have seen this one before, but it's quite a good ethical business question. Okay, so Bella Boutique is owned and run by Isabella Davis, a sole trader in Colwyn Bay, North Wales. Now, just to kind of reiterate this, actually, all the businesses that WJC use are actual businesses, so there's no pretend businesses in the exam paper. So this is a business. Bella Boutiques is an actual business. The business has only been open for 1 year, specialises in wedding dresses, bridesmaids dresses, prom outfits and women's accessories. The business has been successful and Isabel won New Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018 Locust Business Awards. Now, Isabel believes part of her success is because she runs an ethical business. This includes using fair trade suppliers and treating workers fairly. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages to Bella Boutiques of being an ethical business. Okay, so what you're kind of wanting to do there is basically 8-mark question. You're probably going to want to have like 2 fairly big paragraphs with this. Okay, so you're looking at a big paragraph, an advantage and disadvantage, big paragraph, advantage and disadvantage, to try and get the 8 marks. If you can get 3rd one in there, then great. But if you get 2 fairly decent paragraphs in there, really explaining and putting in you know, context into your answer, then you're likely to potentially get sort of the 8 marks for that. So this is sort of how an examiner would look at it, and you're looking at your marking grid over here. So in order to get into band 3, you need to have 2 marks for your AO1, 2 marks for your AO2, which is context, and 4 marks for your AO3, and that's excellent discussion. So this is where you're kind of analysing, I suppose, and evaluating, and that you're having an advantage, and then however this is the disadvantage to this, and that you're able to maybe have that kind of discussion, so it gives a balanced argument. So the things that you could put in there is that you could look that it attracts customers as they're more aware of ethical issues, buy products from the business which share the same ideas. Bella Boutiques will benefit from excellent image. This can be used to promote the business and increase sales revenue. You could then say, however, it is expensive to be ethical. Suppliers often charge more for fair trade products, which means Bella Boutiques needs to increase prices or has to reduce their profit margins to compete. This may mean a reduction in sales or falling profits. Okay, so you can see how I've kind of done that. I've taken an advantage, then in the same paragraph, I've kind of said, however, this is the counter argument to it. You could have done something like, you know, improves the morale of shop workers as their paying conditions or are fair, reasonable. This may improve individual performance and therefore company performance, sales, customer satisfaction, etc., etc. But then you could say something like, you know, however, if Bella's Boutique claimed to be ethical but gives out misleading information to customers, so on and so forth. So you can kind of have maybe that balanced discussion argument. Okay, so this is a question from I can't remember which year this is actually because I didn't write it down. Okay, but it's about supermarkets, and they've adopted a number of environmental ethical policies. Again, kind of sticking on the ethical train. However, we're adding environmental to this now, and these include donating money to charities, selling fair trade products, reducing packaging for products, and reducing waste. Now, explain the advantages and disadvantages to businesses such as supermarkets of adopting environmental ethical policies. And I'm sorry, it's a little bit blurry. Not quite sure what's happened to that. So within your answers, you're kind of looking at the fact that they're reducing waste, which is leading to the costs in the long term being lower. You've got supermarkets will meet government targets and avoid any fines, reducing costs, and again, increasing profit. Supermarkets will benefit from improved worker morale, maybe concern employees with need of safe working environment, fair pay, etc. Show concern for producers in the third world countries, and this is going to be an important image for supermarkets. You could have talked about those sort of things, but again, with the mark scheme, you've got to remember that this is very basic form, and it's your job to kind of put together a good sort of paragraphs, and it's 8 marks, you know, so if you did 2 fairly good paragraphs, I would say that you're likely to get the 8 marks with that. Disadvantage: business costs of being ethical, litter clearance, distribution of unsold food, increased price that impacts negatively on profit margins. You've got packaging issues, which is costs finding alternatives, hygiene, especially with food, impacting negatively on profits. Difficult in being ethical, for example, food miles, transportation costs, all of that kind of goes against ethical policies, environmental policies, and staff issues such as training, supervision may be required to leading to increased costs. So you've got those things there. Now I've just kind of put together a small paragraph that might get quite a few marks. So one advantage of supermarkets adopting environmental and ethical issues is that they're reducing waste. Because supermarkets are reducing waste of food and packaging, this will lead to lower costs in the long term. Therefore, this will then hopefully impact positively on profit. However, finding alternative packaging and single-use plastic, for example, as this is something currently supermarkets need to do, is expensive. This is going to cost money to source, and will the packaging be sufficient to keep the food fresh? Therefore, this is going to lead to a negative impact on profits. So you've kind of putting in with this question, this answer, I've put in some context. I've put in obviously an advantage and disadvantage in the paragraph. I've put context about the supermarkets, about packaging, about food, and then I've gone on to a disadvantage, and then using the words therefore expanded on my points. So the word therefore is good to sort of make yourself expand on those points. Okay, so we're going to have a little look at topic 5, which is your marketing. Okay, so looking at the summary of that, so identifying and understanding customers, segmentation, market research, the marketing mix, which is your 4 Ps, your place, your promotion, your price, your product, and your distribution. So those are the kind of things we covered in the pre-recorded session. So we're looking at currently the 2023 Unit 1 again. Bertie Berry Crunch is a breakfast cereal and is only sold in the UK supermarkets. It's been available since 2011. Now, due to the quality of ingredients, Bertie Berry Crunch is sold at a high price. The graph shows the product life cycle of Bertie Berry Crunch. Using the graph above, identify which stage of the product life cycle Bertie Berry Crunch is in during 2015 and 2021. So if we look at 2015, you can see that there's growth. So if you take the 2000, you can see that it's still climbing and it's growing. Now 2021, you can kind of see it's starting to become in decline. So at that point, that's when businesses will decide, right, okay, are we going to put anything new? Are we going to promote this more? Are we going to change it in some way? Are we going to put an extension strategy on it? Or are we going to whack it off the shelves and try something else? So those are all the kind of things that companies will just try and decide on when a product becomes in decline. In 2019, looking at sort of market segmentation. Okay, so this car manufacturers such as the Ford Motor Company develop and sell a wide variety of cars and other vehicles. For example, they sell small and large cars available in a range of colours, priced between 9,000 to 300,000, and sell different types of cars in the UK compared to the USA. This is because Ford Motor Company uses market segmentation. So identify 3 market segments the Ford company are likely to use. Now, you, with this kind of question, need to look at the actual company because they're not all going to use the same market segments. So the ones that a car company would use is gender, income, location, geographic location, so your lifestyle. Now it says it do not accept age or culture, because if you think about the car market, so, you know, if you're going for a Ford Fiesta, you will see 18-year-olds drive it and you'll also see 83-year-olds drive it. You know, they don't distinguish between age, nor do they distinguish between culture. So you'll have somebody in you know, Japan drive the same sort of car than someone in the UK. So, you know, if you think about a Subaru or something like that, so they don't tend to distinguish between those market segments or that demographic. Another question is looking at sort of promotion. Should I recommend one suitable sales promotion method for Jet2 and explain how this may boost sales? Now, something to really think about is do not mix up sales promotion with promotion. Okay, promote or advertising. Promotion is an umbrella term for things like sale promotions and advertising. Sales promotions is separate to advertising. So your advertising is where you might put it on TV, on TikTok, on Instagram, advertise it, etc. A sales promotion is more like an offer, something that you get if you purchase the product or you get money off, for example. So what you need to think about here is Jet2, it's a travel company. So what would be most thing with travel? Now it says down here, not bog off, not buy one get one free, because you wouldn't do that with a travel company. You wouldn't have a free trial or samples. And it says not advertising because obviously that's not sales promotion. So what you're getting here, 2 marks, identify a point, and then you're expanding it. So using the word therefore is going to be useful. So you could have discounts, you could talk about discount, you could talk about the discount that they could offer. You could talk about free trial places and what that would offer and how that would help them. Loyalty cards, free upgrades, competition. Those sort of things would be accepted, and you kind of explaining about them. Okay, so we're going back to Berry Crunch, which was probably should have bumped that up to actually the last one. Outline 2 extension strategies that Berry Crunch could adopt to improve the sales. So this should have been a carry on from that. So you've got here with the Bertie Crunch. You got decrease the price. The product was no longer expensive compared to other cereals. You could promote the product. You could increase the number of places the product is sold. You could change the product in some way, maybe introduce some sort of flavour or ingredient or something like that. And you've got to change the packaging. Anything other as well would have kind of been accepted there. Okay, so this is going back to the gym one that we saw a little bit further up. Again, Jane Miller is a fitness instructor, so we kind of came across her a couple of questions ago. Jane has been looking into sites where she may wish to set up a gym. Jane is aware of an empty unit that is available to rent in the same retail park as Fit and Healthy Gym, where she currently works. A plan of the retail park is shown below. So you can see where Fit and Healthy Gym is, and then you can see where the empty unit is. So with specific reference to the retail park plan, analyse the suitability of the selected site for Jane to set up a gym. Okay, so I've kind of come up with a little mock answer here. There were obviously other things that you could have talked about. So I've tried to keep it with sort of explaining an advantage, disadvantage kind of thing. So one of the benefits to Jane opening her new gym in the empty unit is that she's next to Sports Direct. So people buying sports equipment, possibly the target market, may be tempted to go to the gym and therefore join increasing revenue. So I've said here, I've said it's next to Sports Direct, so I'm bringing context into it. We've used the map. I've really kind of looked at the context of this as a gym, and this is where you need to be thinking about this when you're doing your exam papers. However, this would mean that there are two gyms in very close proximity to each other. Fit and Healthy is a well-established gym and has been there since 2012. It is a bigger unit and more space than the unit that is currently empty. Jane may not be able to compete with the size of a gym and what equipment can be fitted within it. Another benefit of Jane opening a new gym in the empty unit is that rent may be a lot cheaper than the other units because of the size. This would mean that she would have a lower overheads. However, because the unit is a lot smaller, it may not be able to house vital facilities such as showers and changing rooms. Again, I'm looking at the context of it and trying to put as much context into this as possible. This would discourage people from joining, as some people like to have showers before going to work, for example. Okay, so I've really kind of tried to emphasize that, so putting context in there as well. These are the kind of the other things that could have been said. So all the stores are well known. There's a carport, bus, taxi rank there. Possible drawbacks is the fact that the car park is small. Delivery area is a long way away. Competition from your Fit and Healthy gym, who's actually been there a very long time. So, are you going to get the customers? Another question. So, Aberfan Car Centre is a used car sales business that has been open for 45 years. It is a small-scale car business with only one showroom and two owners, who also the only workers. Aberfan Car Centre, is based in Port Talbot, South Wales, and sells used cars in a range of makes and models. The car business sales are all under 5 years old, and the average price is about £15,000 per car. The business slogan is the home of quality cars. Now, the car centre has many competitors, for example, other small-scale used car retailers and large-scale car retailers such as Trade Centre Wales. Trade Centre Wales has 5 large showrooms, employs over 500 people, and made profit of over £20.4 billion in 2019. Discuss the pricing strategies that Aberfan Car Centre might use to increase sales. Okay, so I've kind of come up with a fairly comprehensive answer. So competitive pricing is when a business charges similar amounts to competitors for similar cars. The advantage of this is that customers may be happy to pay the price, as it will be good value for money. However, competitive pricing may mean that Aberfan have to charge less than they would like to compete with the larger companies like Trade Centre Wales, who get economies of scale, reducing its profits margin. Now, economies of scale is when you buy more than, so you buy in bulk, which means then you get each one cheaper, or you get a certain discount on it, where bigger companies, when they are buying more, can get more discounts from suppliers. And that's kind of the problem with the Aberfan car sales. They might not be able to obviously get that economies of scale. Then you've got psychological pricing, is when prices are below the next round number, so 3,999. This makes the product cheaper and can be used in promotion to attract customers. The problem with psychological pricing is that most car companies do this, and it doesn't stand out from the competition, so may not be effective. However, it also means that low prices are charged to get this effect. So Aberfan may want to sell a product at 4,150, but may sell it at 3,999 to get a more attractive price. And this is reducing revenue by over £150. This would reduce profits of the business. And then you've got, and again, you could have talked about any of the pricing strategies. I chose these three. Cost plus pricing means selling the cars based on the price the business pays for them. And then Aberdaron will then add on a profit to the price paid for the car, and this guarantees a profit. However, as a small business, Aberdaron Car Centre may pay more for its car stock than other competitors, meaning that prices may be higher and therefore uncompetitive, reducing sales. Just to give you an idea of how you could have answered that question. Okay, so I'm going to go on to market research now. So apart from the internet, suggest one other source of secondary desk research that the business might use. And then looking at primary research and method of primary field research, and suggest and describe an advantage to Penny of carrying out primary research. So secondary desk research is obviously things that exist already. So government statistics, newspapers, trade journals, internal data, census, books, articles, sale records, accounts, anything like that. Primary research could have been questionnaires or surveys, focus groups, personal interviews, observation, watching people that go around stores, consumer panels, test marketing. And then an advantage to Penny carrying out your primary research, you've got the fact that it's up to date, it's specific and relevant to the business needs, it provides answers to exact questions, and you can kind of find out number of local nurseries, etc. So you sort of maybe adding to that in order to get the 2 marks. So coming back to Designer Sofas UK, and this aims to increase its market share. So discuss how Designer Sofa UK can use the place and product aspect of the marketing mix to meet this aim. So you're looking at a 10-mark question here. So you're looking at least a 3-paragraph kind of answer that you're looking at the place and product aspects of the marketing mix. So looking at Designer Sofas UK might decide to open physical stores to raise awareness of the business in local areas, to encourage people who like to see and try the furniture before buying it. You could have also gone on about the fact that sofas are very expensive items. So, you know, for people to trust over the internet to buy a sofa, you know, for £2,000, that's a lot of money without actually seeing to see if it's comfortable, to see if it's, you know, fits their home, if they feel it is good quality. So, you know, opening physical stores might be a way to go. But we have a flip side on this. So it's going to increase costs, rent, wages. You know, it's difficult competing with other furniture businesses with physical stores as they're more well known. So like DFS, SCS, you could, you know, talk about those. You might look at remaining online only and using distribution centres to maybe showcase the product. If somebody wanted to come and see it, maybe you have different distribution centres around the country, so it's not necessarily a physical shop, but you have a part in that distribution centre where people can come and have a look at the quality of the product and sit on it and that sort of thing. So you could utilise it in that way. You've got developing selling opportunities abroad, maybe developing a website to increase sale opportunities. You could sell through Amazon, John Lewis, etc. Looking at your product, you could have looked at product portfolio, maybe designing a new range of furniture, you know, that's maybe specific to them. You can't get it anywhere else. Maybe getting a new type of material that's exclusive to them for the sofa. All these kind of things, you know, will be useful for you to kind of make sure that you're getting into your answer. So ideally you needed to have sort of, if I just go back, you needed to have you could have done like 2 on place and 1 on product, or 2 on product and 1 on place, as long as they were both discussed. You talked about, you know, advantages, disadvantages of whatever you were doing. You know, it says here like but, you know, but I always like the word however, because it does kind of allow you to sort of balance your argument. Another question was on Tata multinational company. We're looking at the opportunities and threats to Tata of operating in a global marketplace. So if we look at this international company, its headquarters within Mumbai, India, has become a global business with operations all around the world. Tata owns 100 different companies in a range of markets. For example, Tata owns well-known brands like Jaguar Land Rover, Tetley Tea, and Tata Steel. Now, Tata has a business operating in many different markets, including cars, finance, metal, watches, logistics, energy, communications, telephones, hotels, chemicals, construction, tea and coffee. And Tata employs over 700,000 workers in over 150 countries worldwide, with a combined revenue of over 100 billion in 2018. Over 60 billion of this revenue was made in countries outside of India. They discuss the opportunities and threats of Tata of operating in the global marketplace. So things that you would be putting there, and again, it's 10 marks. So you're looking at 3 paragraphs here and sort of talking about the opportunities versus the threats. Again, I'd say 3 paragraphs. In each of those paragraphs, you have an advantage, disadvantage, advantage, disadvantage, advantage, disadvantage, so that you've got that balanced argument, and it shows that analysis, that evaluation. Now, you could have said the fact that you've got potential more sales, you've gone into them obviously taking out 60 billion overseas, got economies of scale that you could have talked about, you got the spread of risks of businesses over a number of different areas. So if one fails in one area or country, at least you've got the others. You've got production costs in, factories are placed near raw materials, reducing the cost of transportation. Transport costs can be minimised. Operating over 150 countries, Tata has the option of moving operation to a country that offers cheaper costs. Tata could take advantage of trade deals, so on and so forth. Threats, though, you've got the fact that despite the huge size of the foreign market, the potential for growth of the company is not always easy to succeed in new markets. So, you're looking at an opportunity, but then you're saying, however, this is the threat to it, that there might be cultural differences, that there is no interest in the manufacture of products. It could be that you're competing globally, there are many larger businesses that can compete by price. There may be legal, bureaucratic problems in other countries. You might have language barriers as well, difficult training staff, having to difficulty with maybe the laws in different countries. So all those things kind of could be put in there. But my advice for these sort of questions, and try and pair up an advantage and a disadvantage together, and then it kind of flows nicely into the actual the answer itself. So I just did a very quick one. So one of the opportunities Tata has is that economies of scale. Tata is able to negotiate better prices on things that it purchases, particularly those that are used in multiple products or manufacturing processes. However, when competing globally, there are many large businesses that can compete by price and product range. Entering the same market may prove costly, as prices may need to be lowered to attract customers. Okay, so that was just quite a whistle-stop tour on those exam questions. Obviously, there are lots of different exam questions that you are going to have, so it's a case of making sure that you are looking at all the different exam questions that could come up, how to answer them. If you're looking at sort of those longer answer questions, making sure that you're paragraphing well, that you're saying an advantage, disadvantage, you're using words like therefore to expand and however to kind of counter your discussion. So that's the kind of advice I would kind of give you on that. Okay, so I hope everything was okay, and I may see you next year.